What if I told you that from the time you are born, you are programmed and conditioned to separate from yourself, to separate from the truth of who you are, to separate from your essence, to separate from your power? What if I told you that every system and structure and institution that we pledge allegiance to in this world, including schools, universities, and corporations, are all invested in us not knowing who we are? What if I told you that man's perpetual quest for happiness has been based upon this separation from self from the time that we incarnate into these bodies and choose to live this particular life on this planet we call Earth? What if I told you that when you are born, even if you have no remembrance of where you are before, and that is still out for debate because babies don't talk, but what if I told you that you are at one with the self that you have come into this earth as being? What if I told you that every part of your education, your schooling, your achieving in life has all been at the cost of separating farther and farther away from who you are, your truth, and your power? Do you need proof? When you meet someone new, what is one of the first things they ask you as an adult after your name? What do you do? What do you do? What do you do? We don't often hear people ask questions. So, what makes you tick? What makes you you? What makes you happy? And indeed, when we ourselves are faced with those kinds of questions, we often don't know what it is that truly satisfies us on a soul level anymore. This is where depression and hopelessness can often seep in. Because our happiness, or our idea of happiness, is fed to us from a very early age. We are sent to school to be able to be conditioned into believing certain ideas about ourselves and life that are beneficial to creating and maintaining social structures that aren't around to benefit us as individuals, but only a few people who are making all the money, who oftentimes haven't lived life in the same tradition that we've been taught. They haven't been forced to. Some of them haven't even gone to university at this point. And yet, here so many adults are, having done all the right thing and struggling in debt, struggling to pay off what was supposed to set them free. Debt is a trap. It's a trap that's supposed to keep you constantly borrowing and never being able to get out of that loop because of interest rates. And this is the perfect representation of what this programming is also. We are constantly placed in the position of feeling like we need to survive in order that we can't look at anything outside of our survival. Why is that? Because it distracts us from stepping into the truth and power of who we actually are. Who are you? What makes you happy? Outside of how much money you do or you don't make, outside of your status as decided upon by external figures that some of them don't even mean anything to you, outside of how you look in the world or how you appear in the world, or all these things that you've been told are important, that you spend so much of your precious time, which is energy, investing in, instead of investing in the truth of who you are. Are you happy? Are you happy? And can you remember the last time you were truly content? So what is self-alchemy? What is self-alchemy? When you think about the separation of self that occurs from the time you're born, all the conditioning, all the ways you are taught to constantly go against thinking for yourself, coming to a place of using your own instinct in order to live. You are taught how to eat, what to eat, to the point where by the time we become adults with certain health issues, we have to go to specialists to again tell us how to eat. But there are no nutritionists in the animal kingdom. This is all human-made. This is all man-made. This is all part of the structure to keep you out of knowledge of self, because knowledge of self is where the power is. Because when you know who you are, you'll know that you have the ability to create your reality. In fact, you are and always have been creating the reality that you currently exist in. It's just that the competition has been rigged, because those in control of this entire planet and how the social structures work and operate have programmed you and conditioned you to think a certain way about yourself, that therefore puts limitations upon you, therefore preventing you from moving beyond what it is that you know you can be. And that creates frustration within self, that creates schism, that creates sometimes depression, hopelessness, anger. This is why we live in a time where addiction is rampant, codependent relationships are rampant. We have been programmed from the beginning to seek our happiness externally by what it is we do and accumulate. And it's all in order to keep us distracted from recognizing that from the beginning, we are creating our own reality by the way that we think about ourselves and how we relate with ourselves. Because self and how you feel and think about yourself, you are constantly projecting that into your own reality to create the life you live every day. And when we're all collectively doing that, then this is why we have created this prison-like reality that we call the Matrix. There's power in numbers. Everything is designed to make you doubt self, dislike self, and to constantly try to improve and better self. And you are told constantly to look outside of self in order to achieve that. But how many of us have achieved some of these goals and still find ourselves lacking? You are taught that if you want to be financially set in life, that you are to go through school and to do well at the sake of your own health. You're to compromise your own health a lot of the times, because when we look at the pressure that we put on teenagers and young adults to perform in these academic settings, and then we wonder why they have mental breakdowns and depression and anxiety, the pressure we put on them to achieve and perform, that by the time some of them do break out of debt, and the majority don't, they don't even get to enjoy what it is they've accumulated, because health issues take precedence, whether they're mental or physical health issues, because our bodies are not machines. The first thing you're taught not to do is trust how to follow the own instinctive process that is already built into your body. Built into your body, you are taught how to eat in a way that is very counterproductive to being a productive individual. You are taught to eat in ways that facilitate this cubicle way of living that you are being prepared for. All of us are ultimately being prepared for. And very few break out. Even if they don't make it into the cubicle lifestyle, they still have the cubicle mindset. And that's all that is needed in order to keep you out of your own innate, unique power. Every single person alive on this planet is like a fingerprint. You all have your own unique magic. You all have a purpose here in the earth. And it's not to follow someone else's blueprint for your life. The blueprint for your life resides within your soul. You came into the earth with it. If you're listening to this, then you are here for a reason. You're here for a reason, and I want to explain to you what self-alchemy is. Self-alchemy is the process that you undergo on the road to self-mastery. Self-mastery is having that full understanding of who you truly are, your power, your place in the world, and taking that place and living a life that benefits you, a life that you're happy with, a life that is a reflection of who you are and have always been. Self-alchemy is the process of taking everything that you've learned on your journey so far, because nothing is without purpose, nothing is without use, and taking it and applying it to becoming who you always have been, but now you have different knowledge accumulated over time. Self-alchemy is about ripping back all the veils that have been placed over your mind and your heart to keep you subservient to following systems and social doctrine and rules that are actually designed to keep you asleep and out of the truth of who you really are. Self-alchemy is a return to home. And home is self. Home is self. The alchemists of old are said to have been able to turn metals into gold. But many people would argue that what they were speaking about wasn't the physical substance, but the metaphysical substance. There are many things that you have accumulated in your lifetime that have weighed you down and made you operate in a frequency that is more similar to lead, and self-alchemy is a removal of those heavy layers. The removal of those heavy layers, the activation of your light body, the activation of your truth, the acceptance of self, the moving into an energy of unconditional love in order for you to rise. Rise into your power. Rise into self-knowledge, rise into self-actualization, rise into self-mastery, where you are no longer looking outside of self for anything. You don't look for relationships that can never fulfill you because you haven't first fulfilled yourself. You don't look to a job to give you an identity or a title. The reality is, no matter what it is you do or have accumulated in your time on earth, you are a precious, abundant soul with inner resources that cannot be mined by anyone else but you. And the earth needs you in this time to step into your power, to facilitate all of us rising into our power, so that we can live a life that is true to each individual being in unity and harmony instead of in separation. You see, for as long as we are separated from self, as long as we are not walking in truth to ourselves, we cannot do the same for one another. We will constantly be at war. We will constantly be harnessing these separation energies externally, because we are creating the reality, the external reality in the earth based upon how we are feeling about ourselves and functioning. It's time to return home to self. It's time to alchemize all of the lessons of your journey from this lifetime and every lifetime before, so that you can step into a position of mastery. This is what self-alchemy is. You've been conditioned to believe, you've been programmed to believe you're something you're not. It begins with school, and it is enforced by media, and by the time you become an adult, these mindsets have already become crystallized in your being. It's time to remove the hardness in your heart, the hardness in your soul, the resistance in your soul to your truth that in all frankness has been placed there purposely by these structures and institutions that want to control people for economic purposes for the most part, and power. It's time for you to take your power back so that this whole planet can rise into a higher frequency where we're all loved and accepted for the amazing, beautiful beings we are, irregardless as to what it is we do. So that's my message for you today.